Hey everybody, it's Janae. Tonight I have a little bit of a surprise for you. I'm painting this gnome, but it's actually a Christmas tree. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I could not quit seeing a gnome with a cowboy hat on every time I saw this Christmas tree. So I decided to flip it over and outline my idea onto this Christmas tree. And we're going to transform it into a little sheriff gnome, a little cowboy gnome. How cute is that? So I used my chalk and just gave myself an outline, an idea of where I want to put all my little elements. And I'm going to go ahead and get started. You can see here I've got my chocolate brown and I've watered it down a little bit just because I want a thin layer of paint here on the hat. Since I'm not really sure how I'm going to do my shading yet, a thin layer is just what I needed. And I'm just going to go right up to those chalk lines. I just thought this was the cutest thing, and I cannot wait to see it finished. So here, I'm just going ahead and using that same flat brush and that same watered down paint to paint the body of my hat. I'm sure there's a technical name for what it's called, but I don't know. Alright, so now I'm just going to bring that all the way down to meet the rim of our hat. And then I'm going to start picking up a little bit of black with our brown because I want to start adding a little shading to try to help this hat, to finish out this hat. And I'm going to just add that to these areas where you see the wood coming through. I'm sorry, I'm trying to paint and talk at the same time, and that's not a skill I have mastered. So now this is just a little bit darker brown, but it's going to stand out perfect. Oh, you guys, I'm loving my cowboy hat so much. Alright, you guys, now we're going to bring that around the rim of our hat and just kind of keep working on some of these shady areas. Look how cute. I need to pick up a little more paint here in a second, but I kind of like how it's fading out a little. I'm just emptying out this brush, and I'm liking the lighter shade that it's given me, and I'm not having to pick up a whole lot, which I really like. And I'll be honest, I wasn't really 100% sure where this was going to go, but I'm absolutely loving it so far. That little hairy place right there is bugging me. I'm going to have to fix that. Here we go. That's a pretty good looking cowboy hat, if I do say so. I like it. Alright, so now we're going to mix up this color for the beard. And I'm wanting it to be a gray beard, not brown, because then they'll just blend all together. So I'm going to do a gray color for the beard, maybe add a little bit of a highlight here and there. But first I'm going to start with the nose. I'm going to make a flesh tone for the nose. In order to do that, you need white, a little dab of pink, and a little dab of yellow. I'm sorry, orange. I say that every time. I get those mixed up for some reason in my head. You will need, let me start that over. You will need white, a dab of pink, and a dab of orange. And then you're going to mix those together, and you've got a really pretty flesh tone. Of course, you can add, if you want it to be a little bit darker, you can add a little bit of brown to make it a little more tan. It's just up to you, whatever color you want. So I'm just going to give him a little tiny light pink nose. Kind of a pinkish yellow, orangey nose. I don't know where I said yellow from. I have to get my act together. Alright, that's easy enough. So now I'm going to go with the beard. Just going to pick up extra white and mix it in with this gray that I already had. And I'm going to go ahead and paint this mustache. So now I'm using this big brush, and I've started out flat and then I turned it a little bit onto its side to thin out the mustache. You see how I did that, you guys? And then fatten it back out again. And that's just a whole lot of twisting and turning that brush to get the shape that I wanted. It's a little harder to do when I'm doing the left side of the mustache, but if you need to just do an outline of your mustache and then come back in and fill it in, that is perfectly fine too. Look! Oh my gosh, I'm falling in love with my little gnome sheriff. Okay, so next I'm going to do the rest of the beard, and I'm going to do it a little bit darker gray. So pick up a little bit more black, mix in with that, and get my darker gray. And I'm going to start down here around this star because I want to make sure I don't overlap the star, because it's going to be yellow, and the yellow will be awful to try to put over top of this dark gray. So I want to make sure I stop myself and I don't accidentally paint over where I want my star. Y'all, I'm like way too excited about how cute this is. And again, just going around my star, give myself an outline so I don't have an oops here in a few minutes because I'm getting so excited about it. There we go. So now you can see where my star is going to be. That's going to be yellow, so it's going to look really pretty, I think, up against this gray. You'll notice that I'm painting over some of these other chalk lines where I have the ideas of where I want to put my wispies and my little swooshes, but that's okay because one, the chalk may show through once the paint dries and I can still see my guide, but also I have an idea of where I want to put them, so I'm not too worried about covering it up. I am going to switch to a smaller brush because these little spaces are getting tiny, 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 and I don't want to mess up my real pretty mustache that I've worked so hard on. So just following my outline where my colors are going to meet. You can tell I get really slowed down when I get around those edges, but out here I can just put paint on any old way. Then when I go over it a second time, I put it all in the right direction. I'm running out of paint. I'm going to have to make some more. I was hoping I'd have enough for my whole beard, but I think I'm going to have to make some more paint now. Now that's going to be the fun part, trying to match it perfectly. But if we don't match it perfectly, that's okay. We can just go back over it with as close a color as we can get. It's not going to be earth-shattering if we don't match it perfectly. It's looking like I'm pretty close right now, though. It's a little light, but it's okay. We'll just go over it with what we have. That's not looking too bad, you guys. Gonna finish filling in this top space up here. I actually like this color just a little bit better. It's just a tiny bit lighter and I actually like it better. I'm just going to keep covering it over. Now you may have lucked out and got the same exact color if you had to redo your, make more of your paint, and I applaud you, because that's not an easy task, getting the exact same color. If you see me going over these same spots over and over again, it's just because I've got a few little streaks of paint where I had too much paint on my brush, so I'm just trying to smooth it out now. So let's work on this side of the mustache. I keep trying to think of a really cute name for my little gnome, and I can't think of anything. I keep thinking of like Wyatt Earp, you know, Doc Holliday, Billy the Kid, any of those kind of westerny kind of things. And I'm not coming up with any cute little gnome saying, but I'm sure somebody out there is going to have the cutest little name for this, but I don't have it right now. We've been watching a lot of westerns at my house, so I guess I've got cowboy western stuff on my brain. Okay, we're about done outlining this mustache over here. Just trying to get all my little edges neat and smooth. And again, we wouldn't have had to go over this a second coat, except that I had to mix the color again, and I didn't get it just right. But I'm okay with that because I'm actually, like I said, I'm really liking this lighter color even better. It brightens him up a lot. I love this palette I got, you guys. It was a little expensive, but I got it from Hobby Lobby. And it, you know, because I was using those paper plates. But I got this palette at Hobby Lobby, and it holds my paint in those little wells, and it doesn't dry out as fast. So it's awesome. And then when I'm trying to water it down, it doesn't spread out all over the plate. And it waters down my paint much, much better. So if you guys paint a lot and you're trying to solve that problem that I was having, then you need one of these little paint palettes. It's just in the paint section at Hobby Lobby. You could probably get it on Amazon or something a lot cheaper. I think I paid like $26 maybe for it, but my husband thought that was a little outrageous, but that's okay. It's tools of the trade. You have to do what works for you. Okay, so now I got this done. I'm going to dry it with the hair dryer, and then we're going to move on to the next step. Let's make sure we get it all good and dry. This part takes a little while. So now you can see it actually dried a little bit of a lighter gray than it was when it was wet, which is fine because I actually like it. Alright, moving on to the next step. Get this brush rinsed out really good, and then we're going to paint our star yellow. So we want to make sure we have all the black out of that brush, or it's going to make our yellow really not pretty. Okay, so now I've got my yellow. I've mixed a tiny bit of white with it so it won't be as transparent. And let's see if we can get this star painted. Alright, now that our star's done, I'm going to pick up this liner brush. It's a small, medium-sized liner brush. And I'm just going to water down this black because I want to make sure it flows off of my brush well. But at this, you'll see me do that. I'll roll it around to mix it up, but then I'll wipe it off and load it again. That's because I want to make sure my brush is completely dry and that there's no water going to drip onto my artwork. Alright, so now I've got my black, and I'm going to just go ahead and add some outlines for the rest of my shape and add some accents to my hat. Give it a little bit of my finished look. Y'all, I love this hat so much. Like, I can't even tell you how tickled I am at how it turned out. You'll notice that I'm not doing solid outlines. I'm just doing little wispies here and there and a few broken lines just because I wanted it to be a little bit more playful and less all strict, you know, like perfect with the lines. I wanted it to be more playful and fun. So I'm giving it a few of these little ideas of outlines and a few little dots here and there. Get all these paintbrushes out of my way. Got paintbrushes straight everywhere. Look, oh my goodness, you guys, it's perfect. Okay, so now we're going to do the nose, but I am going to have a solid outline, I think, for that, because I want it to make sure I cover where the gray meets the flesh tone. You'll find that there's some places where you want to cover, and then there's some places where it's okay and you're happy with just the idea of the outline. And so that's just something that you learn as you go along, and it's something that's kind of independent to each piece as well. It's not something that you can say, oh, that makes sense on each one. Each piece is just a little bit of a different design idea, and some of them look better with a little more playful look, and some of them don't. I know for me that's something that I try to work on and that I struggle with sometimes as I'm moving forward, working on an idea. I'm like trying to decide exactly how I want to do my finishing touches, and sometimes I don't know till I start working on it, and then I see how it's looking as I move along. Now I'm trying to decide what to work on next. Give our mustache a little bit more detail. Look how cute. Now, for these wispies, it's all about the pressure on your brush. I start out light and then have a little more pressure in the middle and a little less pressure at the end. So as I'm making that last little curl, I lift up a little bit on the brush, and that's what gives it that smaller point at the end. So again, that's just something that comes with practice, and sometimes it works out for me and sometimes it doesn't. It's funny, sometimes I actually have to practice on a piece of paper those strokes before I start painting them, because it just takes practice. And I have to get it in my mind which hand motion, which direction I'm going and different things like that. So if this is something that doesn't come supernatural to you, don't worry about it. You just keep practicing. It's going to come. It just takes time, and even if you've done it 100 times, you still may mess up as you go forward. But that's something that we learn as we go along. And even if we mess up, I always say, even if we mess up, we're still learning. We've learned something. Alright, so now let's give this little star an outline, and then a little bit down here on the bottom of his beard. And so you'll see I'm giving this much more solid lines because I want to cover those places where the yellow and the gray meet. Alright. And just touch up any of these lines that you're not crazy about. Look, I'm loving my little cowboy sheriff gnome man. I think he's cute as he can be. Let's see here. Add another wispy down here at the bottom. Try to decide how to do it. Oh, that's cute. Again, sometimes I don't have a plan. I just put things where it seems right to put them. Sometimes I regret that I did it, but sometimes I love it. So, look how cute. Now I'll just add a few more wispies here and there to tie it all together. So now I'm going to bring in some of my white highlights just to give it the final finishing touch, and then we're going to be all done. There's a little highlight around the nose. See how I'm trying to decide where I want to put this. If you're anything like me, you get to a point where you like it and you're so afraid you're going to mess it up. But that's okay. Trust me, you guys, you'll get more comfortable as you go along. Alright, so now I need a few more white wispies throughout the rest of his beard and his star. notice I'm propping my hand on my pinky because I don't want to sit it down and rub my hand through any wet paint. So I'm trying to be very careful not to rest my hand down on the painted piece. So you'll notice I prop my hand on my pinky or my pinky knuckle just to keep it up above so it's not smearing any paint. And sometimes I just hold my arm up, and that's a little harder to paint steady when you're doing it that way. But these wispies are a lot easier to do. Okay, you guys, we are nearly finished. Just adding all our little white wispies here and there. Okay, you guys, that's it. We're all done. Now just remember, you can get the Christmas tree at Diverse Woodworking's website, searching for Christmas tree, or I'm sure they're going to have this as a design by line where you can just follow along with the outline and make it your own. So either way will work just fine. You can add right here a name or a date or an initial. You could have some cute little gnome saying you could put right there. Just anything. Just make it your own. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure you like and subscribe, and you'll get a notification when any videos are posted. Thanks.